What's going on, everybody? And welcome. You know, I want to say I was on a podcast talking books. It's not. I don't even know what this is anymore. What even is this, Nick?
I don't know.
What even are we doing?
We're just talking at this point.
We're just chatting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, welcome to my YouTube channel, my BookTube channel.
Yeah. BookTube channel.
You're gonna call it BookTube now, dude. It still makes me want to throw up every time I say it. It's such a disgusting word to me. I don't know why. I've had so many people that like recommend booktubers do like unboxings and reviews and stuff. And I mean, I can imagine that I would hate watching myself do it, like after I record it. But like, I can't watch other people like talk about books. It's weird.
You can't really?
I can watch people talk about like the writing process, but I can't watch people talk about books.
Okay, I get that actually. Like, it's like reviews are like more of like a I guess like a personal thing. You're like, oh yeah, like this is that what my experience with some of the book is. Talking about writing is kind of like, oh, this is like the business side. Everyone wants to hear about people talk about business.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I write reviews, but like I don't know if I could string together a sentence like recording myself, because when I sit there and write reviews, I write a bunch of crap and then I go, does that sound good? And I'll erase all of it and redo it. And so I imagine that I would have to do so much editing on this. And as you know from the podcast, I don't edit squat. So
I don't know what you're talking about. I saw the brilliant edit.
At all? Yeah. I've edited everything. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. This is edited right now. This is a jump cut right there.
Yeah, I need to have that. I always point the wrong way. I need to have that little thing that like comes down the center, like Daniel B. Green does, where he has like the sword or whatever come down the center.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure. I don't watch anything on YouTube really besides music.
Dude, I don't either. I think I have. I've subscribed to like 3 things now, which I subscribed to Josh Gad because he's doing this like Lord of the Rings like reunion thing. I think it's on the 3rd. You don't know about that? Go to Josh Gad's YouTube channel.
Okay, I'll check it out.
And there's this guy in Australia that does like insane cooking videos. You may have seen it. I want to say his name is like Nat something.
No,
totally wrong, but he's like this like tatted up like skater looking guy with like long hair, and he's just like in his kitchen, and like half of the video is just like him cursing about how people don't know how to make stuff, and then he just like throws stuff in a pan and it's delicious. Like it's the best.
Okay. I was gonna say I know YouTube. There's an Australian man who makes cheese. It's just very long videos of this very like calm man making cheese, and I'm like I was so like I watched it at the beginning of quarantine, and I'm like, I can't get any of this shit to make cheese right now. Like I need like these specialty like pots and like these skimmers, and like you have to leave it out. And then there's like these like chemicals you gotta put in, and I'm like, this is very calming. This man is just making cheese. Like he makes like
watching very long videos that like don't really get anywhere quickly, kind of like the marble race.
Dude, that like I lost like an entire day to that. Like that was like I really just lost way too much time to those marbles. They were like he literally just makes courses. It's like you took like a 6-year-old kid and said, what do you want your dream job to be? And he's like, I'm gonna race marbles for a living. It was fantastic.
Yeah, have you seen the newest one? The guy made the obstacle course in his backyard for squirrels.
No, but I'm going to after this.
Yeah, it's I want to say it's like half an hour, and he has built it to where they can only go up this like one pole to get to the first obstacle, and he follows like 3 or 4 squirrels over the course of like a couple of days to where they have to get to the end of it, and when they like hit this like little like trap door, all these walnuts come out. But like they end up learning the course in a matter of a couple of days and can finish it in like 40 seconds. Literally, it's nuts. I didn't even need to make that pun.
Quarantine's bringing out a lot of interesting things.
It really is. There's a lot of like weird stuff that everybody is watching because they have nothing else to do. Yeah.
Anyone who's got Netflix shows coming out right now is like really ecstatic There's a
Well, see,
lot of things.
HBO Max just came out, and
Oh, did it?
I started binge watching Adventure Time.
I've never seen that actually.
You should.
I've
If
heard
you have
about it.
HBO Max, I mean the episodes are like 11 minutes apiece. I mean it's like super
Oh,
quick.
yeah.
Oh
okay.
yeah.
I'll have to check.
Short attention span.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say about Netflix?
Oh no, like I feel like a lot of TV execs are like ecstatic that their show is coming out during the quarantine because like a lot of shows I feel like that may have been like skipped over or not hit like let's say the top 10 or whatever Netflix has right now are suddenly like they're shooting up there being like everyone's gonna watch it because there's nothing else to do besides watch TV.
Yeah, and my wife and I were talking the other day. You know, like they have all these shows coming out, and you know they have all these stuff that was filmed say 6 months ago. Like I know The Rock like just had a season 2 of like Titan Games or whatever come out, and they have like Ultimate Tag Show. I'm like, well, obviously that was before the pandemic. So
Yeah.
well, what are they doing, or what have they been doing the past like 2+ months, and what will they continue to do? Because eventually they're gonna run out of stuff.
That's what it is. Like you ever watch Survivor?
Yeah.
This is like the first time they're not filming a season right now. They do not have like a season filmed, and everyone's just like, is there actually going to be one in the fall? Which is mind-boggling. I remember when I was watching that. It's been on for like what 20 years or something. Every like twice a year. There may not be a Survivor season this fall because of the pandemic.
I know there's a lot of people really upset there's not going to be like a Bachelorette season 2. And I'm like,
oh, my heart! I'm gonna lose out on my Bachelorette bracket this year.
My wife's actually okay with it. She only started watching it a couple of years ago because so she used to do pageants. She used to do Miss Alabama pageants. Mm-hmm. She was actually in pageants with Hannah Brown that was on a couple of years ago, and then became the Bachelorette.
Okay.
Kind of got into it because of that, and then she found out like what the season was going to be. She goes, I don't really know if I want to watch it. And then all of a sudden, it's not happening, and she goes, I'm okay with it because I'm so sick and tired of watching it because it's year round.
You should watch the show. I forget what it's called, but it's from the Bachelor producers. They made like a spoof on The Bachelor, like a drama show, but it's all these Bachelor producers. So this is what they kind of actually did, but they're playing it off for laughs. Like, oh, this is all drama. When in reality, like, no, this is what the Bachelor producers actually did. They like manipulate things behind the scenes. They like twist people's judgment. They like do things for dramatic effects. You're just like, I gotta respect it on some level. I'm like, look, people work hard, but the Bachelor producers work harder.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Because they've got to like make sure like they have all these little cliffhangers. They're like writers. I mean, like authors and stuff. They have all these cliffhangers right at the end of episodes or like right at commercial breaks to kind of hook you to come back.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can understand why there's such a fandom for it, but it is
you got it.
Thing. But I got to the point. And the pandemic kind of brought this out is that I really enjoy watching people crash and burn. That says a lot about me, but like we watched, I think it's called Love Is Blind and Married at First Sight.
No, I haven't watched either of those.
Everything seems to be going so great, and then like episode 3 hits, and it's like all hell breaks loose, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm here for it.
You want me to tell you about the trashiest show ever? And I love it. I have to paraphrase by saying I love this show. My girlfriend loved this show. My roommate loved this show. We all love this show. It's called Temptation Island. Oh, and the premise of it's already great from there. So the premise of this show is that they put like 4 couples onto an island with like 10 singles of like whatever, 20 singles, separate them into like, all right, one half couple here, half couples here. Here's 10 signals per group that are just literally their job is to like tempt you out of your relationship. That is the entire show. It's just like these single people tempting these people to commit relationships. And the entire time they're like, but I'm really in love with my other person. And they're just like, this is not how you've been acting since episode 3. Like you clearly are just making stuff up. It is the trashiest show, trashier than Bachelor, trashier than like Love Is Blind or all these things. And I love it. It's so bad, but I will always watch this show.
Yeah, I think my wife was watching. It was like the UK version of something like that. They had like all these people, like all these like gorgeous people that were supposed to all be, in a house or whatever.
Yeah.
You're supposed to couple up, and if you don't, you get booted. But they had
Oh yeah.
where like I think it's on Netflix where like it's supposed to be like all these like very attractive like Instagram models and stuff, and they all get put in a house, but they can't be intimate with each other.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I haven't seen it. But like you gotta respect it. Like they're coming up with
Can you imagine all of like the tension between?
Yeah.
I haven't watched an episode, but like I can just imagine like how like especially for the guys.
Dude,
myself.
dude, I love all of it. Like all these shows I adore. Like there was a show called The Circle, which is literally The Circle was great. I love all these shows where it's just like I can turn my brain off and be like, all right, let's watch what these people are gonna do now. What's gonna happen?
I feel like that's all we can do to the pandemic because man, I can't turn my brain on for much. Like it takes me where it would take me like a day to get through a book, it's taking me like weeks to get through books.
Yeah.
Like I can turn my mind off on something I've watched before or stuff like these where, it just makes me feel better about my situation.
Yeah. It's the same with like writing. Like I'm writing slower than I normally do. Really? I'm just like, yeah. I like, and part of it, like 2 weeks ago, I handed in my second book, so I had to write faster. Right. But I'm working on book 3 right now. And I'm like, I'm going slower than I normally do. It's just because of what's going on. Where you're like, everything's stressful. So.
Yeah, I mean, are you finding it slow just because of the pandemic? Or are you finding it slow because of like material, or do you just feel like you have like this time that you're like, I can ride it. It's on.
I mean, so technically, like, so I got my first book got delayed like 8 months. It was supposed to, and then it got delayed because of the pandemic. So I'm really used to delays. But so like, but my third book is technically due in September, I think, like this September. And like I've got like over 100,000 words on it, so I have plenty of time to finish it if need be. But I made so many changes in my second book. I got to fix my third book, so I got to like cut like 20,000-30,000 words at least out of it. So on that hand, I'm like, this is going to be terrible to do. Then I got to write my ending. But no, so like it's just going slowly because probably just all the stress of the pandemic, book release things. I always know where I'm going in story wise. Like I think I've said this before, but I planned my entire series backwards. Yeah. So like my ending is the first thing I came up with, and then I have to retroactively figure out how we got there. Right. So like I know exactly where I'm going. Like this is easy. I'm writing my ending for my third book right now. I'm like, we're good. That was a very long-winded answer.
I mean, everybody's obviously different, and I'm sure the pandemic's affected people differently. But I know even from the panels we did during the convention, like, especially during the writing process one with Cole and Brett and all that, every single one of them is like, it all comes down to what's going on in that time that you're writing, because everybody's affected by different things. They're affected differently by those things. Because Cole was talking about how when he was writing the Sacred Throne trilogy that he was going through a breakup and he was like writing a scene out and he goes, oh my gosh, like now I know why I wrote this. And I was like, that's crazy. Like you don't really think about those kind of things just coming to the forefront in your writing all the time. And I imagine, maybe some writers like maybe like a sense of loneliness through the pandemic, not be able to have like a social life and stuff, which let's be honest, not many writers have social lives. I mean, everybody's
how could you engaging social life, all these things.
Right? Obviously. But those kind of like feelings and stuff are probably going to come out more in their writing right now than it maybe would have 6 months ago, just because of like the feelings and the emotions they're going through during this whole time, and not really knowing what the next couple of weeks or months are going to look like.
Yeah, like that's kind of how like, and a lot, like 2 points, I guess. So like in my second book, I had written a villain who I wanted to be like just like mustache twirling, like, oh man, this guy is so evil, like he can't be anything. And then he said, and then I got something right. like he said something so evil that someone said something similar to the point I had to like contact my editors being like, can I have a character say this anymore? And it was the strangest email I've ever sent. Because I'm like, I made this character so obnoxiously evil, I shouldn't be having to question something he's saying, but here we are. And then we had to go back and forth on things for a bit. But no, the pandemic is bringing out different things in my writing, at least, like a lot, because there's not much certainty, even contract-wise or like book-wise. I'm like, how am I ending this third book now? Like, I know how I always wanted to end it, but is this the right way to end it now? Should I try to leave it more final than I want it to? Should I leave it a little more open-ended? Do I do my original ending with it? Because look, no one with stuff with freelance, no one knows where the next contract's coming from right now.
Yeah. I guess you kind of have to like shelve a few options depending on how the next one does and so forth. Especially still being kind of, well, man, you're still in your debut stage.
Dude, my book hasn't even been out a month yet.
Exactly. And I mean, and on top of things changing, based on the pandemic, I mean, obviously also being a young author and still kind of perfecting your craft, because you'll be doing that for everybody. I don't feel like anybody's ever perfected unless you write the same book over and over again and just change some plot points. But I mean, I can imagine it's just going to evolve no matter what. So
yeah, and at least the thing I've been noticing, like my second book was dealt with a lot of different things from my first. I think I've said this before on like Twitter. Like my first book was very much a book of someone who finds their way. Like that's the theme of that book, is find my way. And the second book is all about revenge and things. And I'm looking at things I wrote in my second book now. I'm like, was I in an okay place? Like there's this one scene where I'm like, this is pretty brutal. But like, yeah, it just, and then the third book, like a lot of these like feelings of like coming back together, where it's like, all right, I've grown as a writer, so what happens in this next stage? Like, how does this affect my characters? Like, how does this affect how I view the story as a whole? And writers constantly get better and better and better and better. So
yeah, I mean, you would hope it gets better.
Oh, you hope you get better. Like, I don't think anyone wants.
People start with the debut, and you're like, you know what, tank it.
Yeah, and like I think you have the pressure of writing once you go from being like an unknown. People have said this, like you have like decades or years to perfect your first novel that comes out, and then the moment you get deadlines, you're like, it's a real hard moment for writers to adjust to, because you're suddenly like, all right, here's a year. Oh, I just threw a pen across the room by a total accident. You suddenly have a year to perfect this novel to the same degree that you got your first, and it's hard. Like it is. I had an easier time with my second book than a lot of other writers did, from what I've heard. And we'll see if that makes it worse or better. I have no idea. I like my second book more than my first, but I'm also a little biased. Like I just finished it, so I'm like, yeah, it's perfect. Really.
Yeah.
And I get to see. I'm
not going to require any editing. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. I'm seeing cover art for my second book now. I'm like, yeah, this book. It's real good. It's real good. Like the second cover art, the US and the UK versions actually have a pretty good play on each other. So it's exciting. I'm excited for those when they like get finalized and go out. Get to talk about the title. Title's technically out there, but the title's cool. I'm very excited for it to be out there.
So, I mean, I guess the plan for is it 2021? Or you
no, it's
year?
It's March 2021.
Okay,
less than a year away.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the pandemic doesn't have a resurgence.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like the pandemic, I'm gonna be hit with the pandemic twice. They're gonna be like, "Oh, next book's coming out." Wait, too.
Man, it's eventually.
Every time I release a book, there's gonna be another wave. It's just gonna. Yeah, I'm gonna be riding the wave my entire career.
Oh man! All right, so obviously, guys, we've been rambling a little bit. We can talk about books a little bit, but as you see over there, so I've got UK and man, the camera. I'm never gonna be able to get this. And the of Nick's debut novel, The Kingdom of Liars, and Nick is gonna be so kind to read an excerpt from it.
Yeah.
We were hoping he was going to read from book 2, but he's not. He's not ready yet.
I don't know if I can. Like, my book's not even out in the U.S. Like, I was actually thinking about this while.
That's between you and your editor and your publisher.
I'm like, can I read from this book? It's not out. Like, the first one's not out. Is it just like a massive spoiler? But I'm just gonna read from book one. Okay. So to give some context behind this is about, 50 or so pages into the book. Pretty much before this, it's, Michael's being kind of a unique person. And it's a lot of setup for what Michael's normal life has been like, how the city operates, and what is going on in the background behind this thing. And this is Michael, essentially. He's just lied to his friend about going somewhere more dangerous than he was going to. And this is kind of at a festival for his ancestors. And it's kind of Michael coming to terms with what is going on in the world, and bad things happen, I guess. All right. Excuse me, I gotta take a drink in this giant jug for a second. I don't have a glass. All right, so this is chapter 6, The Chained Executioner. Do you know who's being executed this Kingdom Day yet? Not this year, no. I only ever knew if I went to a bakery the day before. They were always gossiping about the latest noble drama there, and I never truly cared. Either the person being executed for treason was a rebel, or they weren't. And the fact that their guilt wasn't always that clear made me feel sick, as did the royals and high nobles who had turned a day once meant to celebrate my family, and today my brother stood in front of a crowd and executed others. The high nobles didn't even attend, always preferring to watch from a distance. It's low noble Philip Grossman. I knew him. Sirash and I had conned him a few weeks ago, when he had first arrived in the Hollow for the Endless Waltz. He'd been one of the easiest targets, and his aim was atrocious. His hands had shook more than a wet dog trying to get dry during the mock duel. What's the charge, I asked. Transportation of firearms from New Dracon City to Hollow, intent to sell. He recited carefully. Little Noble Grossman oversees grain farmers. I doubt he's smart enough to smuggle guns in Hollow, let alone sell them. The royals wouldn't charge him with treason if it wasn't true. If you say so, I said, letting the conversation go, knowing Jamal saw these executions more as a form of entertainment than a representation of justice. Probably because he and Trey had grown up hating and envying the nobility. It had taken Trey years to call me a friend, and longer still before he let me meet his brother. Trey will be fine today, you know. I know. I've just been worried about it ever since your mother died. He seems to be handling it trailed off, unable to find the right word. Ma was always addicted to Blackberry, Jamal said. He's protecting me from her outbursts, the stealing, and the rest of it. When she died, I don't know. I think he's trying to find his place in the world. We survived the East Side. Now he's had a chance to do more than that. Something else Trey and I had in common. Unlike my actual brother, he may have bowed to nobility, and I never would. He won't tell me how she died, I said. Me neither. Just how she died like she lived, alone and only caring about herself. Didn't she steal food from you when you were young? Every day. Then I suppose she deserved her fate, just like my father, I said as we neared the large crowds for the execution. Kingdom Day used to be held in the great stone square on the Isle, or in front of the castle in the upper quarter. But since it became a spectator event where rebel nobles met the axe, they had decided to hold it somewhere the nobility never went. Luckily, no one on the east side cared, seeing it as a business opportunity. The children, in particular, were always selling pointy rocks, rotten vegetables, and fresh dung in such large quantities, it made me wonder where they got their stock from. Aside from the dung, it certainly wasn't coming from their own district. The militia quarter had been stripped clean of anything that could turn a profit. The militia quarter was one of the oldest districts in the city, having been built back when Hollow was founded. The buildings were a motley mess of different materials, having been hit by moonfall more than any other part of the city. Everything in the quarter was misplaced and run down, from the broken cobbles that could pierce shoes to the cracked and pothole-ridden roads. Sirash and his brother worked in one of the bakeries, although, as it was Kingdom Day, the baking was all done in advance so they could enjoy the festivities. I was thankful there were no masks depicting my ancestors this year. The ones meant to look like my father didn't, and still made me angry. As part of the day, an archivist was regaling the crowd with a stupidly detailed list of all the historical mistakes uncovered in the past year, deciding what the truth truly was. When it became clear they weren't going to slander my family again this year, I ignored the rest of the scandalous noble drama. We should get a good spot for the execution, Jamal said. I want to hear the rebel's last words. I want to know if he feels remorseful for what he did and who he helped in his last breaths. Usually they just cried. You don't want to get food rations? I asked. Jamal shook his head. If I show up with rations later, Trey won't be able to pretend we went fishing. We've been enjoying the king's diet lately. I wouldn't want to ruin a terrible thing, you know. Besides, the line was too long. By the time we got up there, all the bread would be gone. Do you want something to throw? Jamal took a few rocks from his pocket with a smile. Brought my own. The children always charge so much for them. We only charged an iron tried a stone, but now they cost two. It's robbery. Jealous? Yes, Jamal said with a roll of his eyes. Since Trey is trying to learn how to use fabs. When are you going to? I'm not. But you're a kingman, and you have to catch lightning like the unnamed kingman could. You can't catch lightning. Fabrications don't work like that. At best, you could create some lightning of your own if that was your specialization, but Jamal shushed me loudly. Let me have my kingman stories. Hearing them from my ma was the best. And if I have to be friends with the lamest kingman ever, let me at least pretend you might be a legend one day. You only want me to be a legend to get into the stories yourself. Yeah, he said. Best chance to be remembered with someone other than you and Trey. I rubbed my arm. I'm still not sorry you're a fabricator, Jamal. Me too, but it makes sense. Trey's only a fab because his deadbeat father was a high noble. My father was a fisherman. Not a drop of magic in his blood. Sadly, not all men are created equal. He looked at me, serious now. Don't feel sorry for me. I may not be a fab, but you are, so you should learn how to use them. Then I can be remembered too. If only it was that simple. My ancestors were titans, insurmountable by any mortal, and the older I got, the less it seemed the three of us could ever be remembered as fondly as they were, or if we'd be a generation without greatness, only remembered for allowing the kingman name to survive when it should have died with my father. Weren't we going to meet your friend and his brother? Jamal said after I'd grown quiet. They're saving us seats in the Coliseum. Close to the stage? Not too close. I don't want to actually end up in line for the axe. I'd save you. Oh, would you? You'd charge to the crowds and fight the militia. Obviously, Jamal said as he flexed his muscles. They have to send ravens to slow me down. Oh, of course they would. Don't believe me. Just wait. If you're ever in trouble, I'll save you. That's a promise. I'll even bring Trey. I had a hard time containing my laughter. Trey? Never. It would take nothing short of war, when you were in trouble, to get him into the public eye. Jamal glanced at me. At least I'd try. Maybe he'd agree if I begged. I'll believe it when I see it. We made our way through the crowds into the Coliseum, which was a marvel of stone construction taller than the walls that guarded the city, maintained as perfectly as the high noble keeps. Some archivists claimed it had been built before the Woven Kings lost control of Hollow, but I had always doubted that. It didn't show hundreds of years of wear and tear. If anything, it looked new. Most of the crowd gathered around the stage in the center of the Coliseum. We went up the stairs towards the top instead. Sarash and his adopted brother RJ waved us over. RJ had two loaves of bread and a bag of candy nuts in his hands. You two took your sweet time getting here. You were worried you'd miss it, Sarash said as we sat down. Forget the way. Michael was late, Jamal said. RJ snickered. Nothing unusual then. Sarash handed Jamal his own bag of candy nuts to the boys' excitement, and he and RJ began to compare their bags. They gave Sarash a nod of thanks, and he smiled in response. He knew from experience how little luxuries were to those who had very little. What are the chances of us conning another noble before the endless waltz begins? He asked. Minimal, I said. The two nobles are arriving today from the outskirts. Do you know their names? I shook my head. We'd have to be lucky to find them. We're rarely lucky. A pause. Winter's going to be rough this year, especially if the supply caravans from Hollow get less frequent. I'll help when I can. I'm always around to nick wood from the nobility's gardens. Like you have a choice, he said, nudging me with his shoulder. Family looks after family. Always. A pause. Gwen's suggestion had been at the back of my mind all morning. Sarash, if I had the chance to help a lot of people, but it meant I had to compromise beliefs, should I do it? You just said a lot. And nothing. all at the same time. I could earn a lot of money by working for a high note. Which one, he asked. Domé the Deranged. Shit, he said. You want to get a drink later? That won't be a quick conversation. Yeah, I'd like that. Thanks, Arash. Before I could steal some candy nuts from Jamal, my brother was climbing the stairs to the executioner's block, dressed in black with a serrated greatsword in his hands. He had a list of names tattooed on his right arm, a record of all the nobles he had executed so someone would remember them. He had the names of his lower-class victims, peasants and merchants, on his back. I'd never seen it, but I suspected there was little unmarked skin left. Leon stood in front of the block, flanked by a monk with each church ready to record the rebel's last words. He faced the crowd and let the point of his sword hover above the ground. As he looked down, the treason brand above his eyebrow was exposed for everyone to see, so as there was no mistaking that the nobility had made a kingdom their puppet. With my brother in place, his noble victim would arrive quickly. Sure enough, I heard vegetables and rocks splattering against flesh before I saw him. The crowds cleared a path for him and his escort as they pelted the rebel with everything they had. To give him some credit, he didn't scream or curse the crowd as some did. He only wept, soft and steadily, with every step he took. I got a better look at him once he reached the platform. Similar in age to me, bruises plentiful under his loose rags, and eyes that had long since abandoned hope. His female scales escort chained him to the executioner's block as my brother stepped forward, cleared his throat, and then said, I am here on behalf of King Isaac to execute Low Noble Philip Grossman on charges of treason, smuggling, and improper handling of financial records. Low Noble Grossman, do you have anything to say? Low Noble Grossman tried to compose himself for a moment, then, in a strained voice, said, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Tell my parents I didn't do it. Tell them to remember me, please. Please, I don't want to be forgotten. God be merciful. I don't want to die. Please. Please. Leon raised his sword above the noble's neck. You will not be forgotten. Your name will live on, even if your body does not. My brother was efficient. He had been executing people for years, and he severed the noble's head in one clean strike. There was a splatter of blood and a thump as the head dropped into the bucket, followed by the lull of noise that always came after a death, before the crowd started hollering and cheering. Jamal, one of the loudest. Leon cleaned his sword with careful, precise movements and dropped the rag over the basket to hide the head. He picked it up and was gone before the escort who had led the noble to the block had recovered from the shock of seeing an execution. Lots of blood this time, Jamal said. There's always a lot of blood, Shrosh stated. You think they'd find a less messy way to do it, RJ said. The blood is the least of today's worries, I said darkly, getting to my feet. With the excitement over, we made our way to the ground and began to leave the Coliseum. You don't think the rebels would be stupid enough to attack Hollow, do you? Jamal asked. How can they not? I countered. How many rebels do we execute or hang every week? A dozen? 2 dozen? How long before we killed so many I didn't finish my sentence. A man with the rebel symbol of the closed red fist painted on his face and a sword in his hand emerged from the crowds. He cut down one of the monks in a fluid motion and shouted, Long live David Kingman. The rebels closed his eyes and tilted his head back before exploding into a brilliant blue flame. I was frozen as I watched it happen, wondering why a fabricator had turned rebel and hoping Jamal and RJ were still behind me. When his fire touched the stage, multiple explosions rocked the pristine Coliseum and the twisted and broken streets of the militia quarter beyond. As we were blown back, the Coliseum cracked and crumbled around us. The people trapped inside screamed desperate, pained wails as thick black smoke covered everything. Angela had been right. The rebels had come to destroy the city, as they had in Navarre. The last thing I remembered was being thrown by the blast, my face skidding across the shattered stones, wondering what death would be like. All right, and then things go worse from there.
Then it's a happy ending, right?
Yeah, it's a happy ending. No,
kind of.
It's an ending.
So it's an ending to a book that leads into another book.
Yeah, it's very much it's an ending that leads into another book. This is the perfect way to describe it.
So I mean, you've done a couple of readings now, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about doing readings?
It's like a skill. You gotta practice it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm any good at it, to be honest. I'm just gonna keep doing it until someone.
I thought you did fine.
thank you.
Yeah, you'll either do it until somebody tells you not to.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's just like, how many times can I do a reading until someone finally says, no, stop doing this, you're bad.
It's like, you know what, Nick, just talk about the book, answer some questions.
Yeah. Look, that's the dream, actually. If you ever get popular enough where you don't have to do a reading, where you can just be like, let me answer questions about my world. That's the dream. That's the absolute dream. Like, ever seen like Sanderson and them do it? Like, he's just like, I'll do a reading maybe. Or would you rather me answer questions? And they're always like, yeah. And he's just like, oh yeah, let's answer some questions.
Yeah. What you need to do is you need to you need to get a few more books out, and then, or what you need 2 series, and so that way people can ask questions about both, and then maybe you want to do readings anymore. Exactly. You're still green. You can't. I know. You can't get by without it yet.
Right now, I'm like, oh man, I gotta keep reading. Let me figure out what I'm reading this time, because I don't want to keep reading the prologue over and over again. So.
I mean, the prologue's great though, but every time somebody's gonna Google you, it's just you read the prologue.
Yeah,
you got like 10 different videos reading the same thing.
That's why I was like, oh man, should I read something different? Say like from a different book. And I was like, can't read book 2 yet, sadly. Maybe.
I mean, you could, but just wouldn't do it live, and it wouldn't get posted.
I literally can't read the first line of book 2. Like there was this like Twitter thing going around being like, oh, what's the current thing? Like retweet the dialogue tag that like you just finished writing. And I looked at it and I'm like, massive spoiler. Look at the next one. Massive spoiler. Look at the next one. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't just type yeah. Like this is like.
And then he walked down the road.
No, that's kind of what it is. But yeah, and I was like, maybe I just read something that I'm not even contracted for. I'll be like, I got this other thing I'm working on, so maybe I should read that. But.
So you're working on another, I guess, fantasy like series or standalone or?
Standalone. I want to make this one a standalone. I've been working on it for a bit. My agent's seen the first chapter of it and he liked it. But who knows when I'll actually try to get it contracted. I've got a title for it. I've got a pitch for it. And I'm really enjoying it. It's not anything like what I currently write. It's more, I don't know. I'm trying to think of how do I describe it. It's kind of like if you mashed American Gods and Heart-Shaped Box together. I guess is like I guess how I'm selling it.
Okay.
Yeah, the title of it's called Death and Other Cures. So it's
I like the title.
Thank you. I feel like I'm good at titles.
You know, I'm really interested to know how you're going to match those 2 things together.
Look, I shoot big. Sometimes I land, sometimes I don't. I'm always got to shoot for the stars.
I gotcha.
Other than that, working on book 2, handed it in. It's coming out March 2021. As long as it doesn't get delayed, like that's really what it is at this point. Like, please don't get delayed again. But it's out of my hands at this point. So.
Yeah. So you've had the UK release with Gollancz, and then you've got the ebook and audiobook in the US, and you've got a hardcover release on what day?
June 23rd.
June 23rd. So that's going to be your main US release, correct?
Yep. That's when the hardcover comes out. That's when like all the things like I'm actual debut in the US right now because I'm not like in between like hey, my book's out. My book's not really out. It's it's Schrodinger's cat, but for debut authors.
Yeah, exactly. And and I'm assuming I know you've got some signed book plate editions at a local comic book store, right?
Yeah. So there's a place called Escape Pod Comics. You can find it on my Twitter account. And right now they're the only place that are doing signed editions of the US version. I sent them book plates because I've known the guy for years. And I'm a customer of his. And he's like, yeah, of course I'll buy your books. I'm like, he's like, oh, what's the problem? I'm like, Simon Schuster. He's like, oh, I'm already a partner with them. We're good. I'm like, delightful. Right now, I think all the Goldsboro editions that were also signed are sold out. But I signed more book plates. I think they have more. I don't know. Let's see.
Doesn't that make you feel good though to hear that something sold out?
Oh, it was great. I know at least I sold 250 copies. Like that's like.
I mean, come on.
It's great. Like that I was like, oh yeah, it's sold out. That's an awesome feeling. I'm like,
yeah. And I mean, and you actually, I think you hit more like reviews your first week than I've seen a lot of debuts do. So That's a pretty decent accomplishment too. I mean, still the magic number's 50, but you'll get there.
Yeah, I think I'm at like high 20s, I think, or something at this point.
Yeah, I think you're like mid to high. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not too shabby.
Not too bad.
For not having a hardcover release yet.
Yeah, right.
I mean that's just Kindle, and it's Kindle and early readers. So
yeah,
not too bad.
Yep. I don't have no idea how many Goodreads reviews I have. I've been on there for a while.
Don't go on Goodreads.
Dude, Goodreads.
Don't go in there.
Wait, hold on. You want to hear my favorite thing? So it should come as no surprise. Some people have some very strong opinions about Michael, and every time I stumble upon a review they're like, "Oh, I hate Michael." I'm like, "I'm sorry, that's the point, but it's okay." I go read reviews of The Magicians. Have you ever read The Magicians?
I have not.
Okay, if you think a character's hated, go read Quentin Coldwater. People hate him with a fire of 1,000 burning suns, and I'm like, oh man, this like makes you feel better. I'm like, oh, it's not Quentin at least. Michael may be hated, but Quentin's hated.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I can't say that I hated Michael. I didn't like him, and then I just kind of became infatuated with him. But see, at the same time, I don't know if you've read The Broken Empire by Mark Lawrence. Like, I never liked Jorg, but like I kind of like him now that I'm done with the series.
Yeah, it's
like I can kind of see why he did the things he did. Now, there's a lot of despicable things that he did, but I can kind of see why he did a majority of the things he did.
Yeah, and Jorg is one of those characters that fascinates me because if you go into that series blind, I feel like you're just like there's actually a higher chance of you putting it down.
Yeah.
But if you know, like, oh, Jorg's a terrible person ahead of time, you kind of build up this like, all right, let's see how bad he is, and let's see why he's hated. But Jorg is a fascinating character because he literally is a terrible, terrible human being. I don't know if I think there's anything redeemable about him. Like, no. I struggled to find one. But he's fascinating because it's like, as a writer, I'm always curious by those voices I have no like familiarity with. One of the things we got to read when I was in college was Junot Diaz, and he's a very like literary writer, and most of his stories are about relationships, and a lot of his stories are actually about cheating in relationships, and that is something that just like doesn't connect in my head. But having this like very experienced writer try to do something, so I'm like, these characters are all terrible people, but I'm utterly fascinated because this is just something I don't understand. Like, this is something my brain just doesn't like connect with, and I'm like, how does this person happen? Like, these are all terrible people. I hate all of them, but I'm fascinated by them.
Yeah.
So when I was creating Michael, maybe this is just like too much behind the scenes. Yeah, Michael's whole thing was that he starts off very, very immature. Like, he is someone who has very like delusions of grandeur. He is someone who has been raised as like with all this pressure on his shoulders and has messed it up completely. He's like the prodigy who's never a prodigy but was raised like a prodigy. And it did some like mental stuff to him. And he doesn't have like role models, really. He doesn't have like a good dynamic with his like family. He doesn't have like honestly really close friends. He doesn't know how to have friends. So it's a lot of him growing up in this book, like finally like figure out, all right, this is how like families work. But he's very confident, like he'll say the words like family looks after family. It's like, dude, you don't know what family is. Like, you don't know what friendship is at this point. Like, you're very much someone who says a lot of things because it's the right thing to say, but you don't know what the actions behind it are. And that's a very annoying thing to read. But I think it's when you created like I remember when I was a teenager, like I said all these things. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do this thing. My friends did too. We were like, oh yeah, we're all these things. And as we grow up, we're like, why did we say those things? That's like really embarrassing. Like, stop. And like the more time, my favorite thing is like I was an RA in college, so I was the person taking care of all like the drunk people. Like, if you made a mistake, I was probably one of the people who got called in. So they'd be like, how you doing? Like, you need some water.
What's going on, guys?
They're like, I'm not drunk. And I'm like, you're literally on the floor Like, I think you need some help. It's okay. We won't get you in trouble. Just here, drink some water. And you have a lot of these very like put together people most of the time who would do downright stupid things on the weekends. But it was just like they didn't know how to regulate themselves, and everyone like goes through these things. We're like, oh yeah, this is how we do it.
Yeah.
But it was fascinating. Like I found the smartest people like in ditches in college from drunkenness. Like it was just like what are you doing?
Yeah, it's like those people that are kind of sheltered, their like high school years, and as soon as like the reins are let off and they go to college, they have no idea like what to do, so they just kind of follow and end up making a lot of bad decisions.
Yeah, it's most freshmen in college, to be honest. Like,
it is definitely most.
If I put a number on it, it'd be like 80 to 90% will make at least one stupid decision, and it's not even like these are just stupid decisions. Being like, oh man, you drank too much when you shouldn't have. And you're just like, don't do that again. My friends used to tell me about a guy who literally was like, I didn't black out this weekend. Gold star weekend for me. And you're like you hear that and you're like, what are you doing?
Right.
But yeah, it's all about growing up, and Michael's whole thing is about he's growing up in this book. And sorry. I was gonna say, like, his whole thing is about going from like a boy to a man. So this book is boy to man, and then the next book is man to hero, and then the next book after that is hero to legend. So this is like the trajectory of Michael's whole story, and his family story is him growing up.
Alert.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So you were saying, reading things about, I guess, people's character and stuff, and kind of going, these are terrible people, but they're very fascinating. So I read a collection by Nathan Ballingrud called North American Lake Monsters. I suggest you at least give it a look.
Yeah.
It's a horror anthology, but they're actually Hulu is creating like I think it's an 8-episode season and potentially more based on it. But it's basically just stories of like men and kind of like it's like taking certain sins and attaching like almost like a monster kind of not really an aura, but like it's basically like making them into monsters, but also kind of putting it like a horror setting. It's really good. I think it's 8 or 10 stories.
That sounds fascinating.
He did a similar collection that came out last year from your same publisher, from Saga, which I guess is Gallery now, called Wounds. And they did and Hulu did like a single movie based on one of the shorts called Wounds. But yeah, he basically, he doesn't do like the whole like shtick of like, there's definitely monster or a creature or something in this. It's all about humans and the decisions they make and how they affect everybody around them. They're really good. So yeah, I'd say if you're interested in that, and it may give you some ideas of how Kingman catapults himself throughout the rest of it if you get stuck in something. But yeah, if you need another way to make him into a horrible human being, that's where I suggest you look there.
Well, that's one of my favorite things that I'm slowly figuring out is like, I bet if someone made bets on who of my characters end up bad people and so who end up good, they would get some of them wrong. Like, they get a decent amount of them wrong. I probably should have people start making bets. Be like, who do you think is going to be the worst person in the book by the time this series ends? Just guess.
Let's do a little poll. I said do a little Twitter poll. Everybody loves Twitter polls.
Yeah.
Your tweet may get 5 likes. Twitter poll, you'll get 200 or 300. I bet.
I might have to check that out.
Something about clicking that button, man. Everybody freaking loves it. Maybe it gets more like views. I don't know. I don't know how it works.
No
idea. I don't know how algorithms work. I can't even talk. But yeah, I would do a Twitter poll. Yeah, freaking. I did the one for the Malice Buddy read, and man, like it went through the roof. And I'm like, nobody ever likes my actually really good tweets based on this. I mean, don't get me wrong, Faithful and the Fallen is amazing, and John Glynn's an amazing writer, but like I have some pretty good tweets that don't get any love.
Well, I think it's actually something about. I think the algorithm actually responds to interaction rather than like views or anything. So like the more people interact with something, the more like then they put it in other people's feeds.
I need people to start interacting with stuff more.
Well, that's what I think it is, because I notice things where I'm like, more people are interacting with this, and more people are seeing, which obviously like retweeting stuff, but even just like liking things, where like then other people will see them like, all right, this is interesting.
I'm telling you, do a poll.
I think that's really what it's going to boil down to.
Yeah, exactly. So can you talk at all about book 2?
Yeah, I'll talk about book 2. Book 2 takes place about a month after the events of book 1. And it's the Kingman family dealing with at the ending and what's learned and what's happened. And it's essentially, it is about let me phrase this correctly without spoiling anything. It is the Kingman family is dealing with a magical serial killer who is from various people's pasts in the book. And it is very much the book where my characters who do not have an idea how magic works suddenly figure out how magic works. And it has some really cool scenes where like I've maybe shown off like 10% of how the magic works right now. And now we get to see some like cool things where like, this is kind of a spoiler, but whatever. Like people start delving into other people's memories.
Okay. Ooh.
So like the whole memory magic system amplifies where people are like going into each other's memories and figure out, all right, what actually happened. And the twist in reality gets messed up even more. So
nice.
Yeah. Look, I know we'll
stay over there. We don't want to get the spoiler till
exactly. But it's very good. I'm really proud of this book. It's very exciting, and I think a lot of people will like it, even if they hate certain other characters.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I want to take a second to thank you for coming on and doing a reading from The Kingdom of Liars. I really loved the book. I obviously got a review out like a day or two before it came out.
Yeah.
The UK release. And obviously I've got arcs of the UK and the US, and then I grabbed a hardcover from the comic book store, so looking forward to that coming in. So obviously I'm a big fan. So definitely, we'll have you on as much as I can. So yeah, exactly. And guys, like you were saying, it's currently available in ebook and audiobook in the US and the UK, and then obviously the hardcover in the UK. And then US hardcover will be out on June 23rd. And then we'll be looking, I guess, for a cover reveal towards the end of the year for book 2. And then usually they like to do that like 3 or 6 months out. So, I mean, I know Abercrombie just did the UK reveal for his second book. And
his comes out in September? Yeah, late September. So,
yeah,
I don't know. Well, the covers are, I have them on my phone. They're just chilling here. Or at least the mostly finished covers. So
somebody's gonna hack that.
Look, that was the dangerous part. Where
a lot of people love Richard Anderson, so there's a definite chance people are gonna be looking for it.
It's terrifying because I'm like looking at the covers. I saved them, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll post this picture. I'm like, hold up, is this the wrong cover? And I'm like double checking, like I can't accidentally tweet out my second book cover. I would like my publishers would have my head, so I gotta like actually start looking and be like, all right. Red and black, right one, wrong one, right one, wrong one.
Oh man! Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. Like I said, this will go also on my podcast, Authors on Podcast Talking Books, where I also have another lovely chat with Nick. We did a couple of months ago before Mayday Con, and so yeah, and then we'll try to do this again at some point. Maybe we can do a little bit for book 2 before before or after the cover reveal, and then we'll do another chat before book 2 hits. So just thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man.